Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Changing Minds podcast season 2. This is episode 4 on anti-fragility, how to bounce back better. Now in this particular episode, I want to share with you some of the most useful insights I've learned over the last few years to do with how we deal with adversity, how we deal with problems, how we deal with change, how we deal with challenges that tend to make life harder for ourselves. And so I want to talk about a few different concepts, but the reason this is called anti-fragility is because anti-fragility or being anti-fragile is something that Nicholas Taleb coined in his book Anti-Fragile. And at a very base level, it's pretty much a heavy book like all of Taleb's books, but in a very base level, he talks about the difference between anti-fragile and resilient. And being resilient, for example, is when you are able to bounce back from adversity. When something bad happens, you're able to get back on track. Whereas anti-fragile is bouncing back better. So it's that adversity actively makes you stronger. So it makes you better as a result of going through it. And so he talks about the fact that some systems are fragile and some systems are anti-fragile. So a system of fragile, like a glass would be an example of a fragile system. So if you drop a glass, if you smash a glass against the wall, then it breaks, and so therefore it's fragile. Whereas if you, the simple one I always give is that if you lift weights, you break down your muscle fibers and they grow back bigger. But another example would be even airlines. An airline might have, let's say, a crash. And that crash, that adversity, actually makes it so that they then are going to work on the safety system as a result. So even though it's a terrible thing, it positively affects airplanes in the future, right? Because when something bad happens, that results in something that makes it stronger as a result in any way, shape, or form that occurs. So that's just a simple example. But the idea is that we can be more anti-fragile in the way that we deal with sort of adversity from a stress point of view, from a psychological point of view. And once again, it's been associated often the idea of post-traumatic growth. So there's post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which is to do with the fact that when you experience trauma, oftentimes you react to that trauma and it has negative repercussions on your life. Whereas post-traumatic growth is more that when you go through trauma, you actually grow as a result of it. You become better as a result of it, which is pretty cool, if you ask me. So you've got the post-traumatic growth idea, the anti-fragile idea, and I think it's a even more useful way to think about things than resilience, because resilience is great, don't get me wrong. The idea is very popular, it's in vogue now at the moment, and it's about dealing with, all of these different things. But what I want to just talk about is, well, what are the different things that we need to be anti-fragile with? And so there's a few things that we have to deal with on our regular basis, and it's unprecedented in the history of time, these kind of experiences we have. So every day we're facing change more than we ever have before. So we're forced to change and we're forced to experience lots and lots of change every single day. Technology means that we're constantly having to iterate and update and we can't get away with the same things that we've always done. And as a result of this, that means that we really have to continue to adapt. Our ability, like Richard Bandler, Dr. Bandler in the last book that we wrote together, Thinking on Purpose, he talked about the importance of human beings need to adapt and that we really truly need to improve our ability to adapt to any different circumstance. So your ability to adapt is crucial, but the problem is change creates stress. And that stress will either lead us to collapsing in front of the change or suffering or struggling with the change, or learning to adapt and becoming stronger as a result, growing from the change, thriving from the change, allowing the change or the stress to motivate us or inspire us. So really that leads us to the idea that how do you react to change? And some people are more change adverse, some people tend to tolerate change, and some people love change. But even if you're change averse, let's just say, it just means that you're more comfortable. When you have a sense of certainty, you're more comfortable with doing what you've done before. And if that's true, one of the ways that you can do better is to figure out, well, even with this change, what is similar about this new way of doing things? What is similar to how you used to do it? So to actively look for the similarities, actively look for what hasn't changed as opposed to what has. It's just a simple little strategy that might help. But as well as change and us not always liking change, there's also then uncertainty and unpredictability. So let's take uncertainty first. The lack of certainty about what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. And we crave certainty. We crave certainty because back in the evolutionary times, we needed to know something was true in order for us to make decisions. So we have to know that we were safe. Whereas when we're uncertain, we don't know what's going on. And because we don't know what's going on, therefore, we feel almost at the mercy of the world. And so in increasing uncertain times where things are changing, things are quite volatile, it means that we're less likely to be able to feel that sense of certainty or self-assuredness or know that everything's going to be okay. And you add into the mix some unpredictability. So unpredictability is that we can predict in the future what happens. So certainty is about being sure about whatever's happening. But unpredictability is the ability to be able, the fact that we can't predict effectively what will happen in the future. And if you're not certain about things in the present and you're not able to predict what can happen in the future, well, there are two evolutionary advantages gone right there and then, which will, of course, cause a lot of stress, of course, make it more difficult for us. And so we really have to look at, well, how can our uncertainty or our unpredictability, how can they be advantages? How can we turn them around? How can we make them so that they make us anti-fragile as a result of having those qualities? And then we also have adversity itself, and that's when bad shit actually happens. So something goes on wrong in your life, and you're dealing with something stressful, you're dealing with something challenging, you're dealing with something difficult. So when that occurs, then once again, you have to make it so, well, how does this make me stronger? The whole Nietzsche thing. Whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger, And so what we really need to do is we need to look at those different qualities and how that factors in. Now, you've a few positive qualities we'll mention. One is grit. So grit is more to do with when you're getting back on track and you're trying to get something done and you're trying to get it finished. What's the difference between people who get something finished and people who never do? They might start stuff, but they don't keep going. So how to keep going more effectively is to do with grit. And that's to do with a lady called Angela Duckworth, a great researcher in the area. In her book, Grit, she talks about, it's about passion and perseverance. So you have to have the passion, the feeling to do it, but you also have to keep going. I think we do the work of series on her in season 1. But then also, as well as good old Angie, we also have on the other frame, or on the other side of things, we have grit, but then we also have like perseverance. And perseverance is connected more with, there's an aspect or elements in that, like, passion and perseverance. There's an element to grit, but also perseverance could be connected to resilience. So when you're resilient, you're more likely to persevere. You're more likely to keep going, even in face of adversity. You pick yourself back up. And so when we talk about uncertainty, when we talk about unpredictability, resilience is almost like, well, when I don't know what's going on, I'm going to keep going and keep moving forward. When bad things happen, I'm going to pick myself up and keep moving forward. The real trick, though, I believe, is to start to find new meaning in the adversity we face, find new meaning in the unpredictability, find new meaning in uncertainty. So, for example, when we take the term uncertainty, and Tony Robbins is a thing where he talks about the 6 human needs. And one of the needs that he talks about is variety. But sometimes you can use that interchangeably with uncertainty. Because on the other side, so the 6 human needs are the needs that he says that you need to have in order for you to make any change last, or the needs that we all have emotionally, and some of us need one of these more than others. And I think it's connection, significance, certainty, variety, contribution, and growth, right? They're the 6. And so when we talk about certainty, the opposite of that, or the one that he ties into the opposite of that, is variety. So he doesn't call it uncertainty. And so if you look at it, if you reframe or change the way you describe the uncertainty of the situation, and you see it as variety, then that can help you massively become more anti-fragile in that context. Because when you aren't certain about something, in a way, you can see that as forcing you to be more flexible, forcing you to adapt, forcing you to, whatever happens, I'll deal with it. And when you have that ability to be able to just pivot and deal with whatever happens on the spot, it puts you in a much better position to be able to be more effective. Because in that situation, you're adapting to the circumstances and you're allowing yourself to be able to deal with or handle whatever might come your way, which is wonderful. So from that perspective, it's a really, really useful way of looking at it. You look at uncertainty as variety. You look at uncertainty as excitement. You look at uncertainty as novel or new, or something that you can do, something that will help you to be able to grow, and something that will help you to be able to be more flexible as a result. So it can build your flexibility. Then when you talk about unpredictability, well, again, that could be excitement, you know? I mean, if you could predict everything that ever happened, it'd be boring. Part of the enjoyment of watching a movie is that you don't know how it's going to end. And it's the unpredictability of the ending that makes you feel good. And so the unpredictability of the future, that's what's exciting. You never know what might happen. That's what, you know, the stakes are high. That's what makes it exciting. So once again, when you reframe that to excitement, you can see it as something that's more likely to put you in a better state, which will make you better and stronger as a result, and therefore more anti-fragile. So you relabel uncertainty to variety and unpredictability to, you know, excitement. And again, these are just my thoughts or ideas. You can probably come up with even better ones yourself. And then the last one is adversity itself. And so adversity to me is, our response to it is about bouncing back better. And so you could see adversity as fuel. Or you could see, I often say, like, people use the problems that happen to them as excuses as to why they can't succeed, or reasons why they will. And so I believe that if you can see adversity as the reason why you'll succeed, then you're turning it on its head and you're really extracting from it a meaning that gives you exactly what you need to be able to get to move forward. Make no mistake, every person on this planet is struggling with hardship. Just because people seem fucking happy and they're up on social media all the time talking about, hey, I'm happy, doesn't mean behind the scenes they're not like, oh, my life is shit. They might be. I'm not saying I do that. But you have good and bad times. And so when you have the good times, great. But when you have the bad times, just remember, you're not the first person to have a bad time. You're not the first person to have a shitty day. You're not the first person to deal with a breakup. You're not the first person to have awful shit happen to you. You're not the first person. And you won't be the last. And that's not to take anything away from it. My heart goes out to you. I hate to know that you're in pain. At the same time, your job then is to go, right, well, what's this going to mean, right? Is this going to mean the end of me? Is this going to mean, oh, this is the excuse as to I'm going to use from now on as to why I don't win? Or is it going to mean that it's the reason why you will? Because when you change the way you think so that the problems and adversity you face become the reasons why you win as opposed to the excuses as to why you can't, you transform your world. And that's what I want you to do. That's what I'm hoping you will start to do as you move forward into the future. So I hope you found this useful. I hope that you got some value from it, and I hope that you're able to take it and move forward into the future, conquer the adversity, enjoy the variety, enjoy the excitement, and recognize that with all of this, with all of the change that happens, all change means is that you're going to learn new things, you're going to develop new ideas, you're going to improve, and you're going to have a happier life. Thanks so much to all of you for the support. I hope that you've been enjoying these video podcasts as well as the audio ones, and I hope those of you listening to my audio podcasts, you're still enjoying them. I really hope they bring value to you. Please rate and review if you can on iTunes if you're finding them useful. But for now, thanks very much for listening. I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. I will talk to you very soon. Bye for now.